pretty much touring cars without the back seat, without a bumper bar on, take a few bits and pieces off. So I think Darren Knight's going to bring us the sports sedans. So Darren, you right to send. So Darren's going to come on board and help us with this commentary. We've got some very powerful motor cars out there, that RX-7s, Nissans, Holland Chargers, and Stephen Jarrett's there with the only Mini Cooper Essence here, which is the actual Ray Malloy car. So we'll see how he goes. 1310 cc's against 6 litres of car in some of the motors there. The Mercedes 450 SIC ex Brian Thompson car. So I'll introduce Brian, to the microphone again is Darren Knight. Good afternoon again, Darren.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to have Group U sports sedans, so much like Group C and Group A touring cars. These are the actual thing, the genuine item. They are sports sedans that ran back in the day and have finally joined the historic ranks as an official category and known as Group U. Sports sedans were huge in this country in the 1970s. Some of the grids were so big they actually ran 2 divisions, particularly in Sydney. Group 1 and Group 2, the fields were overflowing and they really were extremely popular and produced some great racing with some very wild looking machines. So joining the category the historic ranks fairly recently, they'll be running a rolling start, we believe, Ron?
Yeah, so your pace car will pull out in just a moment, so I'll be waiting for the green flag. Notice the 2 little Austin A30s there. It's fantastic to see there. Next, a Peter Brock lookalike A30, and the other one, which I think runs a Datsun motor from memory. Datsun motors are very popular to put in these sort of cars, as is the Nissan that's out in the front there. The car 36, Miles Bond, the road print Datsun Stanza. Anything else but a ordinary looking Stanza, isn't it really? A bit different to Mum's shopping car.
So almost a cavalcade of Barry Bray built cars here as well. The Nissan Stanza Ron was talking about, the number 36 machine of Miles Bond. Barry Bray built that car in the late 70s and then replaced one of the A30s you were mentioning, which is out there.
Little yellow one. They're coming down. They've got a green flag. Don't know why they're not starting. Well, they've got to wait till they go over the line, perhaps.
Graham Gilliland out there too in his RX-7.
Racing.
Very quick machine. Away in race 1 for the Group U historic sports sedans. Graham Gilliland leads from Bond in the Stanza. Jason Maros next. Clem Smith, the Charger, is in 3rd. With Brook in the X. Gowans Salika in 4th. Maros on screen now, the number 26X Clem Smith Charger, a car that sat in a shed at Malala for many, many years, of course, raced by Clem Smith. And Jason Maros and his team have restored this car over the past couple of years. As I mentioned, laid dormant for many, many years, just came out for the odd demonstration with Clem at the wheel at Malala. Clem, of course, passed on now, but the owner of the Malala race circuit, and it's great to have Jason back behind the wheel of that famous Clem Smith Charger. Damien Johnson out there in the Salika. Damien is a bit of a sports sedan nut. Of course, he has that very unique Tirana sports sedan with a Falcon head on it.
Oh, yes, yes.
Which is a bit of a hallmark of the sports sedan category, all sorts of things going. That's the ex-Doug Clark Salika. He's now running the number 78 machine.
And we've got one of the Anglias off down near the bottom end of the circuit there, but he's got it all back together again. He's not on screen, so we'll talk about what's on screen. As you say, the little Salika going by. These were a fantastic little motor car in their day. And Peter Williams, and of course, was the one we used to watch at Bathurst driving those cars with the first of the in-car cameras. And There he comes down, coming up to the old pit straight, goes past us now. Then the Capri going by, then young Sully going by. That's Mark Sully with the ex-Dave Hunter car. Always looks so odd to me. It's got such big wheels and doesn't look quite right. But anyway, that's the way it is. And young Stephen Rook with the ex-Ray Malloy Mini there. There's somebody off into the boondocks. That's the Capri going off there. So he's stuck in the mud, as we say. And the Ford Capri, which I haven't got there. But anyway, it's the green one. We can't quite pick up the number until he gets, is that 86, could it be?
That's Stephen Craig in the Capri having a bit of an excursion. Looks like he's been able to get the car mobile again, and he'll rejoin shortly.
Corey getting around in a very radical looking EH Holden. I mean, the guy that got these things going very well, of course, was the car that was the
Ron Harrop.
Ronnie Harrop. I was trying to get the name. Yes, Ronnie Harrop. And he actually used to get that thing flying. And it was in the Bob Jane type colours and super looking motor car in its day.
Certainly was. And then, of course, went on to be driven and prepared by the great Wayne Mankin with that turbo hanging off the side of the engine. Ronnie used to run it as a V8, and then Wayne, the turbo whiz that he is, developed a very quick turbo motor for that EH.
I remember seeing Wayne many times at Sandown. He would absolutely blitz the field until about second last lap or something, and bang, the turbo would go, and he'd be back to the drawing board again. Good to see car 25 getting around. That's E. Corey. So quickest lap so far is Bond with a 132, so he's well ahead of everybody else. Sully getting around there with a 144.
Graham Bolter on screen in the number 179 Austin A30, a replica of Peter Brock's very first race car that Peter shoehorned a Holden 6 under that very small bonnet. It's a very faithful replica driven by Bolter at the moment. He has one of the other A30s there for company. It's Ian Baird, I think, in the, sorry, beg your pardon, that's, yes, Ian Baird, the yellow A30. That's the other ex-Barry Bray car out there, with Rod Wood right behind them in the FJ Holden. A car that started off as an Appendix J touring car.
That's right, yeah.
And then was built into a sport sedan in the early 70s.
Yes, there are a number of cars, the old FJ, FX type cars. Ian Chilman, he had a very quick black one of those with Chilman air conditioning written on it. So yeah, some special cars of the old days. There's the two little A30s having a great dice.
Well, the Humpies were running in the class when it was known as sports racing closed.
That's right, yeah.
Before the sports sedan term was coined. And there were some quite radical looking FJ and FXs back in the day with weird grills and bodywork.
Oh,
I think
absolutely,
the Gagans had a go at running one in sports racing closed there for a while with some strange bodywork on the front.
Used to put pointy things on the headlights to make it aerodynamic, all sorts of weird, wonderful things. And running Jaguar gearboxes or MG gearboxes. They were pretty radical cars in their day. I actually ran a Austin A30 with a Holden, grey Holden motor in it for a while, but had awful trouble keeping gearboxes in it because they're very short tail shaft on it would twist it up and break the gearbox. Gowan and Hindhoff sort of sorted it out, but it was a bit late in the series, so we gave it all away.
A tiny car, they're almost as wide as they are long, so
yeah,
must be a bit of a handful at the limit, Ron.
Certainly are, and I mean these things race in England, of course, in the touring car over there, but they're not really kosher cars. I mean, they run, 1,300.
They're probably
10.
closer to sports sedans than they are touring cars in England.
We actually said that the other day, that they run more closely to being a sports sedan. Little Vauxhall Viva there. Is it the Viva going through the Gippsland Car Club entry there? They've been around for a while, the old Gippsland Car Club with John Bryant and the boys down there. So
it's actually a HB Tirana, so pretty much.
My apologies.
Yes, very close to a Vauxhall Viva. I guess the first Tirana based on the Vauxhall Viva
was
some local panel work.
so long ago. But anyway, good to see a variance of cars out there. Like I said, in the early days, when the sports sedans first came around, we were running touring cars, and at each event you could actually run as a touring car, come into the pits, take the back seats out, take the front bumper bars off, which came off a couple of bolts. You had a sports sedan. That's the way we did it.
Yeah, so mixing of grids quite common back in the day, in the 60s and 70s. So
yeah, my word.
Quite often, right through into the 70s, we saw a lot of Group C touring cars joining the grid with the big bang of sports sedans.
Yep. Yeah, so it was quite a common thing to do.
So this is not a race, there's sprints. So best lap so far is Miles Bond in the Nissan Stanza, the ex-Barry Bray machine on screen at the moment, a 131.1, so he's not mucking around.
I always thought that was a very nice package, that car. It always looked just like that, and just looked the goods, I reckon. It was nicely proportioned.
Barry always presented a fantastic looking car with...
and I think he's actually driving the car, isn't he?
No, that's Miles Bond behind the wheel.
Bond, is it? Sorry. I did read somewhere where he was actually still driving the car, but never mind. Yeah, very smart looking car. There's some genuine spare parts there. Mark Sully there, he's in the, he's off screen at the moment, but he's in that bright yellow Tirana. Mark Sully, of course, the son of Terry Sully, very quick Sunbeam Tigers with the V8 engine Sunbeam Alpine.
Speaking of Barry Bray, on screen at the moment, the number 38 Nissan Gazelle, so Barry himself, as you mentioned, Ron, he is out there.
Yep.
And that's another one of the cars that he built. That's the car that succeeded the Nissan Stanza, or the Datsun Stanza. So again, turbo-powered Nissan engine under the bonnet, very light machine, and as usual, always turned out in fantastic condition by Barry.
Yes, he certainly builds a nice motor car. So they've had just coming up for 11 minutes or something. I think they've got their. It's supposed to be 8 laps, but they've actually got a time on there. So maybe they've got 15 minutes. It could be 15 minutes, I think.
So no one's got near the time of Miles Bond at the moment. His best was 1:31. Jason Maris is next fastest in the Charger, 1:34.3.
Yeah, he did. Bond did that on lap 4, so he's quite early into the. And is that on kilometres an hour? 178 kilometres an hour going over the start-finish line, I guess. But some are quicker than that. The Maros is 192 kilometres an hour.
V8 powered Charger, not the 6, not the famous Hemi 6 that we see in historic touring cars, and you can tell by that fantastic engine note under the bonnet of the Clem Smith Charger. Clem built a couple of Chargers over the years, and this is by far the most radical of the 2 cars that he built. Ran right through into the early 80s when sports sedan regulations changed to GT. So we had things like 935 Porsches, of course, driven by Alan Jones, running with it, the sports sedans as one class, and some huge creations. We saw big, massive wheels and flares built into some of the sports sedans, that some freedoms they were allowed to run when the category changed to GT regulations in 1985. The car that won the championship in 1985 is here. I'm not sure he's circulating at the moment. That's the ex-Peter Fowler Mercedes 450 SLC. Hopefully we'll see him back out there tomorrow.
Yes, do we know what happened there? Is he any issues on the motor or something? Don't know. We don't know why he's not running, but Maros is going pretty. He's been doing 192 over the start-finish line. If that's the way that works, it's pretty quick.
Certainly, his huge wheels under that under the bodywork of that machine. So that's the end of the sprints for historic Group U sports sedans. Miles Bond was fastest in the Stanza from Jason Maros. Graham Gilliland in the RX-7, that's the car that he raced back in the day too, that very quick little Series 4 Mazda RX-7, a 134.6. And Damien Johnson in the Sleeker, who's next fastest, a 137.06. So thanks very much to the Adelaide Motorsport Festival, one of the sponsors here, and also Clive Cams for their sponsorship of the Group U Historic Sports Sedan Sprints. Clive Cams, over 40 years experience in the game. There would be probably half the cars here this weekend would have a Clive Cams installed in them because they are well known in the motorsport field, and thank you very much for their support.
Okay, thanks, Darren, and I guess we'll catch up with you again tomorrow. You can go home and get that well-earned beer, which I'll be looking forward to very shortly. Okay, thanks very much. Now, the next event coming up, of course, will be the Alpha Racing, brought to us by that Adelaide Motor Festival, event number 12. And I have a guest commentator coming up to me, is young Rick. Rick is going to be on board very shortly, so we'll have a little bit of a break and come back to you very shortly.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannon's,
We've also got Shannon's Home and Contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
We all agree now is the right time to start making choices to support Aussie businesses, supporting Aussie families and communities. Well, from their humble beginnings in Melbourne nearly 100 years ago, Penrite now sit as a truly respected global lubricants brand across automotive and industry. And the best bit, it's still 100% owned by an Aussie family that employs Australians in Australian factories right here on Aussie dirt.